Hello everyone, how's it going? Dr. Incompetent here, and let's play some FTL Faster Than Light, shall we? This is the advanced edition of the game that everyone got at this point as a free update to the existing Steam version. And we're going to do a complete beginner's guide here in 2023 to FTL. So this is a game I played right around the time it launched, 10 years ago, and I really enjoyed it. It's incredibly difficult space roguelike. And recently I just have been talking to some people on the channel about it, and I picked it back up, and I had forgotten basically how to play, and was teaching myself again, how this game goes, remembering tips and tricks that I knew. And so recently I've been playing the game a ton, learning from viewers on stream, reading guides, remembering my old advice to myself, and I want to make a complete beginner's guide so that if you've never played this game, you might learn how to enjoy it, because it's quite difficult. The concept is a little bit unusual at first, but once you get the basics of this game, I really think you can enjoy it for the masterpiece that it is. So whether you're a new player who wants to get better, or you are someone like me who's returning to the game, hasn't played in a while, wants to brush up on their skills, or you've never played it at all and just want to see what it's like and learn the fundamentals, this guide is for you. We're going to start, and I'm just going to play along with you so you can play along and understand everything about the game's control, the UI, basic strategies, what to upgrade, where to go, in a way that's not totally prescriptive, but just trying to teach some best practices of FTL. So we're going to start a new game. Now, when you start a new game, if you've never played before, the only ship that you get access to is this one, which is the Kestrel, okay? And in this screen, you can see the top-down view of our ship, which you're going to be looking at the whole game, okay? And if you're not sure what kind of a game this is, FTL is a roguelike where you're going to have lots of decisions that you need to make, events that you need to navigate that are random, and a combat system that is real-time space battles, okay? So it's a neat mashup of some different types of games, and it comes together very well, but it's also very, very difficult. So because it's so difficult, if you're a new player, I highly recommend not playing on normal and going on easy mode, okay? So what this means is if you play in normal mode, you get standard scrap rewards and enemies, and you get a higher score. If you play on easy mode, you're going to get some extra scrap, and scrap is like money in this game, which means you can buy more upgrades, do more at the shop, hire more crew, things like that. And you're going to get some easier enemies generated. So it's overall, it's an easier time of it. It says easy. But let me make no mistake. You don't have to feel bad about putting it to easy, because even though it says easy, it's still actually really hard. Like, it took me a long time, even on easy, of playing again and again to beat this game, because it's very challenging. All right? So we're going to play with the Enhanced Edition content enabled. It comes that way by default. We're going to play on easy, and this is our ship right here. Now, we're going to look more into this as we go, but right now let me just explain what you see on your screen. So this overview of our ship shows each room, okay, in our spaceship. These orange things on the walls of the rooms are the doors, okay? And while the game is playing, you can open and close these doors, provided that your door systems are operational. You can see that we have 3 crew members. We have Ekman, and I'm looking in the lower left where it says crew. I have Notch, and I have Thomas. The Kestrel, which is the starter ship, starts with 3 randomly generated human characters, and really the only thing about them is that they have random names and appearances, but everything else about them is the same, okay? So there are different species in this game. There's aliens, there's of different varieties, and there's humans as well. and they all have pros and cons. Now, humans have no negatives, okay, but they don't have a very big upside. They just get that their skills improve slightly faster, but some of the other species have significant benefits, but with also some larger drawbacks. So we're going to talk about the reason why we would want different species as they emerge, but right now, you start with 3 humans, okay? Now, when you're looking at our ship, okay, you'll see that we begin with, I'm looking in the bottom center, 2 weapon systems. We start with the Artemis missile launcher, and we start with the Burst Laser Mark II. So we have a laser and a missile, okay? And we have no drones on this system, on this ship starting out. Okay, we can get drones later, but we don't have any right now. And we begin with no augmentations. Now, when you complete more achievements in the game, you can unlock not only different layouts for the ships, but different ships themselves. And you can mouse over here the different achievements that you have to complete to get a new arrangement for the Kestrel, a new layout, okay, like a ship architecture that's different, and the different ships as well. Now, I am starting a new account after not having played for a long time, so I have hardly anything unlocked in the game, so I'm starting just like you are, effectively. Now, given that we've got the weapons, the crew discussed, you're going to notice that there are different systems that are spread out throughout the ship, and these are rooms that have an icon on them. This room right here that I'm mousing over that's above our weapon system and to the right of our oxygen is just an empty room. You can walk through that room, and it can take damage and things like that, but it doesn't do anything. But however, this room with the 2 missiles on it is our weapon system. And if this gets damaged, then we can't shoot weapons, most probably, depending on the degree of the damage. These are our engines, which affect our ability to jump and to dodge. This is our oxygen, which, you know, we need to have oxygen to breathe. We're humans. There are some species, well, there's one species that doesn't need oxygen, but that's not us. There is the piloting, okay, which we need to be able to dodge at all up here. And there's the door system, there's the sensors, there's the med bay, which is for healing, and then there's our shields, which, well, you guessed it, generates our shields. We'll talk about all of these systems in more detail, but I just want to describe to you so you can understand which icon does what. Now, if I mouse over on the bottom, underneath my ship, the different systems, you can see, for example, shields on the far left here. It says, powers your shield. And there is a bar indicating what level our shields are at. So this is a roguelike, but it is one where you can constantly upgrade in RPG style your ship and your crew members. And you upgrade your ship and your weapons layout. You purchase augmentations, more crew with scrap, which is the general money-based reward that you get in the game. And for example, right here with our shields, okay, we have 1 shield barrier right now, which you can see by the 2 green bars over on the right panel. But if I were to spend 20 scrap to go to the next level and then 30 more scrap to go up 2 bars, you see that the reward in the far right column says 2 shield barriers, okay? And that would mean that I would get 2 shield bubbles provided that I give this system enough power. So you can see the cost right here that it would take to upgrade the system. If I want to upgrade the engine, you can see, for example, right now, I start out with 2 pips of engine, and this is giving me dodge of 10, which is 10% chance to dodge an incoming shot that's dodgeable, okay? And it tells you the FTL charge speed, like how long it's going to take us to charge up our faster-than-light travel engine so that we can warp to the next sector. Or node, okay? And if I upgrade this, then I get more dodge, and I charge my FTL even faster. O2 reflects how fast it's going to take to fill up oxygen if we lose oxygen, okay? Weapons means I can equip more weapons, all right? I can put like you see I have 2 empty slots for my weapons here. I could get new weapons and put them on my ship, but they take power. For example, the Burst Laser Mark II, if I mouse over this, and this is a thing for this game overall, just mouse over anything and it will give you a description of it, most likely. That's very useful. But this game also benefits greatly from supplementing with the wiki if you want clarity on anything. So the Burst Laser Mark II, for example, it says over in the right panel where there's the tooltip for this laser, it has 2 required power. And that means that I need 2 power running to this system to run the Burst Laser Mark II. Now, our weapon system, you see it has 3 bars. These bars reflect how much power is being used by the system, okay? And that means that I have 3 bars and they're all being used because the Artemis takes 1 and the Burst Laser takes 2. All right? And if I get another weapon that takes 2 power, well, then I'm going to need to level up my weapons to get 2 more available power, or turn off the power to one of my weapons and turn it on to the new weapon. So you can toggle power on and off, and that's actually a major part of the game. So I could stand here and explain everything to you, but I think it's best to just see it all in action from this point because the layout will change. So I'm just going to go ahead and click Start. Now it says here that the data you carry is vital to the remaining Federation fleet. You'll need supplies for the journey, so make sure to explore each sector before moving on to the next. But get to the exit before the pursuing Rebel fleet can catch up. Tip: fuel. Every jump consumes 1 unit of fuel, so keep an eye on your reserves. Buy fuel at stores to avoid being left stranded. Okay, so this is just the generic window that will pop up every time you start a new run. All right, now, before I move on, though, there's actually a lot of good advice here. What they're telling you is that you're going to see an exit marker, and you're being pursued by the Rebel fleet. Actually, it's kind of a nice reversal in this game. You're part of the Federation being pursued by the Rebels, opposite of Star Wars or something like that, for example. But anyway, in this one, you might feel like the tendency is, okay, I need to get away from these bad guys as fast as possible, take me to the exit quickly. But really, it's the opposite. As it says right here, you need supplies, so you want to explore as many nodes on the map as you can without getting caught by the Rebel fleet. So part of this game is managing the pursuit of the fleet and seeing what path can I take to get as many nodes as there are that can power me up so that I can get a more opportunity to get rewards from events or fighting ships, so that I can make myself stronger. Because at the end of the game, okay, if you make it through all 8 sectors and get to the last stand, which is the end of this, you can win this game. But to do that, you're going to have to defeat a large flagship, which is like the end boss, and you cannot beat that if you aren't strong. Like, if you didn't level up your ship and your people and your weapons and stuff, you are going to be annihilated by this. So you can't win this game through evasion alone, okay? So you need to grind up and get enough experience so that you can defeat the final challenge at the end to win the run, okay? Very similar to something like Sway to Spire, where you just need to like kind of manage how much risk you take before you go to the boss, and you want to level up, but you also don't want to take so much damage that you're not strong enough to stand in on the boss because your hull has been damaged. But the other tip that they give here is fuel. So it's like, while you want to go to as many nodes as you can, note your fuel. And it's right here. It kind of looks like this nucleus or this atom picture. We have 16 fuel, which means we can move 16 spaces around on the map before we run out of fuel. Now, if you run out of fuel, you don't actually lose the game, but you're just adrift, and you have to kind of like turn on a distress beacon to like get help. And you could get help from somebody good, or a pirate could come and jump you and take advantage of your situation. So you definitely want to keep your fuel high, and we'll talk about that, all right? But now we're just going to click Continue, and we're going to see the new screen, and this is the base game screen that you're going to see as you play, for the most part. Whenever you're in a sector or a node that has nothing, you'll see this top-down view of your ship with nothing else on the screen, just a kind of nice space background, all right? Now, before we move on to the map, let's just continue discussing what you see. So you see our ship again, and now it's actually surrounded by our shield. This blue bubble around our ship means that our shields are up, okay? So let's talk about the UI so you can interpret all of this, the resources that we have, and see at a glance how you're doing. So in the upper left, you'll see that we have hull strength, okay? These green bars are the strength of our hull. This is like our hit points. If this goes to 0, your ship will explode and the game is over, okay? That's one of the primary ways that you lose the game, all right? So if this goes down, you're dead. Underneath this, you'll see that this is our shield, this blue bubble, okay? So right now, we only have one bubble of shield, and if something hits this, it will turn off, and then our hull itself can be hit. So the shield will block weapons that it can first, and then as it goes down, you're vulnerable to attack. So you want to keep your shields up at all cost, okay? And you want to get more shields as soon as you can to be able to withstand more volleys of attacks, okay? Now, to the right of the shield, you'll see our fuel. Like I talked about, we have 16, and I'm mousing over it. You see it says each jump consumes a fuel. We start with 8 missiles, okay? So missiles are incredibly powerful, and we have them on this ship. This ship is actually really good. It's a great starter ship. It's very balanced, okay? But missiles are limited. Now, you can buy missiles. You can get them as rewards for events and combat, but you do want to watch them, and you want to try to save them for situations when you really need them, in my opinion. To the right of this are drone parts. Every time you use certain drones, okay, deploying a drone, you have to use a drone part. There's all kinds of different drones in the game. You can get drones that go attack the enemy ship, that board the enemy ship, that defend your ship, that repair your ship, on and on. But you need to have a drone system to do that. And right now, on the bottom, you can see our base systems that we start with. And this ship doesn't start with a drone system. You can purchase one, but we don't begin with one. The Kestrel, I believe, can upgrade and add on 3 more systems to the base systems that we begin with, which are shields, engines, medbay, oxygen, weapons, and then our subsystems are over here, which you can't really mess with beyond upgrading them, which are our piloting, our sensors, and our doors, and we'll talk about those in a moment. Now, in the upper center here with this gear icon, this is the starting scrap that we have, and like I said, this is basically our money. You can spend this at shops to buy new systems, weapons, augments, repair, missiles, drone parts, fuel, crew members, on and on and on. Certain events take money, and this is also what you use to upgrade your ship. This big jump button lights up whenever you're able to jump, okay? And you can click that to go to the next node on the map. This ship icon, okay, you can click it, or you can push the corresponding keyboard hotkey U, and it will open up your ship windows. And it looks like this, okay? So you can see this is our ship right here, the Kestrel. These are all of the systems that we have. Here are our subsystems, and here is our reactor. Now, we haven't got to talk about the reactor yet, but the reactor is basically determines how much power you have to spend on your systems, okay? So this is where you can come to spend scrap to upgrade your ship. We'll talk about this in a moment. This is the left tab. The middle tab is your crew. You can just mouse over your crew to see how they're doing. And another thing that's important about your crew is when you mouse over it, you can see all of their positives and their negatives, but you also see what their skills are. So as your crew work on your ship, they gain experience in different categories of skill based on what they're doing. So, for example, if somebody is manning the piloting or the cockpit, they will slowly level up their piloting skill, which will provide more evasion to your ship. So you can see on the right, in the top tooltip panel, it says human, all of the negatives and positives for being a human. And then below that, where it says crew skills, it tells you their level of skill. That bar can fill up once for green and again for yellow toward mastery. And once it's full with yellow, you are capped out. You are a complete master at that. And the benefits for each skill are listed below. You can also see those reflected in the system when you mouse over it. and we'll talk about that in a second. And then over here on the right, this is kind of your ship's inventory. Your weapons go on the top. Your drones go in the middle panel. Your cargo are things that you're storing. So it's like if you get a weapon and you don't have room for it, or something else, a drone, and you don't have a drone system, it goes in your cargo. You have 4 slots. You can sell things, okay, or you can save them for later. And augmentations that you get right here, you can only have 3 of them, but they provide passive bonuses to your ship, okay? They're very good, but you only have room for 3, so be mindful of that, okay? All right, so I'm going to push accept and just get out of this. And I'm going to go back to your ship for a moment, and you can also go right here. The gear is just the settings menu. And let's continue exploring the UI, but go back to the left and go underneath the shields and see this icon with the engines. This shows your current evasion percentage, okay? So this is determined by our engine power level, okay? But it's also contingent upon some other factors. And right now, when you look at our ship, let me explain that. You'll notice that our crew are in these 3 positions. They start out, Notch, if I mouse over, is right here. And you see that Notch is like typing at a keyboard in the engine room. Your crew can man certain systems, which means that each room can be manned or operated by 1 crew member, okay? And only certain systems get this benefit, and you can mouse over to see what they are. But for example, right now, because Notch is here manning the engine room, if I go down to the bottom of the UI and mouse over the engines, you can see that it says right here, engines charge the FTL drive and power evasion. And it says manning it increases the dodge chance. So this means that because I have somebody here, I'm actually getting +5 evasion because this room is manned. But your crew can move around. So the first thing I want you to do is go over here to the left and click this button below your crew where it says save your current crew positions. On the far left, it looks like 3 people. Okay, you could click it, or you could push the slash as your hotkey. And I'm going to click it, and it says stations saved, okay? And that means that if you move your crew around, you can then just go over here and push this button or click enter to return them to their saved positions. This is extremely important. It's a huge timing-saving device, and it can also save your life. So at certain times, you're going to need to move your crew around, okay? If there's a fire on your ship, if there's a hole that you need to fix, if you need to go man a different station, if the oxygen runs out of a room, there's all kinds of different reasons that we're going to have to move our crew around. You can do that by either just dragging a box to like select your crew. You can just left click on the crew. You could come over here and click on them on this left panel. Either way, once they're selected, you see how Notch's box has turned green. That means he's selected. If I select 2 people, you see that both of Notch and Thomas's boxes turn green. They're both selected. They also appear green on the ship overview, and their health bar is displayed above them in green. And then you can right-click to move them to a different room. Now, notice that because I've moved Notch out of the engine room, he's no longer manning it. Our evasion has gone down from 15% to 10%, and this is because we don't get the 5% or the +5 evasion from manning it, okay? Now I'm going to push enter, and you'll see that they just go right back to the stations that we have selected for them, okay? You can change this at any time by telling your crew, like, once you have them in the places that you want, you just click save position, and then you can push enter or click this button here to have them go back to where they were. Now, underneath the evasion, you'll see the oxygen. It's at 100%. That means the oxygen level for my ship is at 100%. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of things before we get into fighting or anything like that that will change our oxygen level. Number 1, you'll see that we have doors on our ship that I pointed out to you before. If you mouse over these doors, then there is a kind of like open and close icon that will appear, and if you left click on the door, this door opens. Now, you can only open and close doors if your door's subsystem is operational and receiving power. So this right here is our door system. If a system is in gray, if the icon for the system is gray, that means it's intact, it's working, you're good to go. If it is orange, it means it's received some damage, but it's not completely destroyed. And if it's red, that means it's completely destroyed, and you need to repair it. If it's blue, that means it's been stunned, okay, in some way. So these are things you want to look out for with the changing of the icon. But right now, we're good to go. We'll talk about getting hacked and stuff later. Now, right now, our doors are working, so we're good, all right? Now, you cannot take power away from your subsystems manually. So I cannot come over here and right or left click any of these stations and turn them off. You can't turn off your piloting, your sensors, or your doors manually to reallocate your power distribution. Okay, so good to know. Now, another thing you can do, okay, is you can close doors using key commands. So if I go over here to my door system in the bottom right where it says subsystems, again, the doors just look like two side-by-side doors. I can close all the doors on my ship by either clicking this button that looks like close doors, or I can push X, and I can open all doors by pushing Z, okay? Now, if I push Z the first time, it will only open my interior doors, okay? And you'll notice that my ship, as I push Z, is starting to turn pink. Why is that? And my oxygen is dropping dramatically. I'm going to push X to stop that, okay? So let's talk about what happened there. If I have this door, like I did, open out to space, so these doors that are adjacent to space, you can open them and like vent the airlock. And what this does is this opens this room into space and empties it of oxygen. If a room has no oxygen inside it, you will see these diagonal red bars going through a pink room, meaning there's no oxygen. If your crew were to go into this room right now with no oxygen, you will see that their health bar, Thomas's health bar, is draining because he's suffocating. I'm going to move him out of there, okay? Also, you'll see that our ship's oxygen level is, going up, but it will not be able to get to maximum because this room is open. When I open this door, I'll do it again just for fun, you'll see that this room starts to turn pink, and it's gradually losing its air. I'm going to move Thomas back out of here so he doesn't suffocate, but now this room has completely lost its air. If I close the door, because this room is being provided oxygen, because our oxygen subsystem is not damaged, you see O2 right here, it's gray, it's good. It's going to fill up the oxygen in this room right here because it doesn't have an open door, that there's no breach in it. It's in the interior of the ship, and it will fill it back up slowly. The rate at which the O2 subsystem fills the oxygen depends on how far we've leveled this up, okay? Now, if I want to close this door, okay, I can just click on it, and eventually then this room will get its oxygen back because the door to space is closed and our O2 is working. I'm explaining all of this to you now before we start out because this stuff will get incredibly hectic in the heat of battle. So much of FTL is about the heat of battle. And what I mean is, like, you notice how Thomas lost health because he was in a room without oxygen. If you're not monitoring your crew's health and you don't realize that you've depressurized a room or you've lost oxygen in a room, you could slowly be dying and not even observe that and lose a crew member. If a crew member's life goes to 0 and you don't have the cloning bay, they're dead. They are gone. If you lose all of your crew, you lose the game. You have to have at least one crew member alive, okay, to keep your ship going and complete the mission. If you lose one crew member, you don't lose. You just need, but if you lose them all, you do lose. All right, so that explains oxygen, opening and closing doors. Now, another thing about doors, if I push Z, you'll notice that it only opens the interior doors. I actually have to push Z again to open the exterior doors, and I'm going to push X to close all the doors really quickly because I don't want my people to die. Now, oxygen is refilling. Even though we're in this node right here, this game is real time. Time is passing, and I can sit here and repair my ship, put out fires, let my people heal, restore my oxygen as long as I want if there's no threat on the screen. And right now there's no threat. So I can just sit here and get myself stable before I jump. You aren't losing anything at any time in this game. The rebel fleet will not pursue you faster. Nothing bad happens to you if you're on a screen and you're safe and you're taking time. Now, some screens, they'll be like, if you're in an asteroid belt, for example, well, it's not a safe screen to be on. There's asteroids that are going to constantly bombard you, so you might not want to be on that screen for a long period of time. But this screen is safe, and I can sit here, okay? So in terms of managing your stress, you can chill on certain screens and just get yourself stable before you go, but you don't always have that luxury, okay? Now, let's talk about healing. Thomas took some damage, okay, from suffocating, and you'll notice that you can look at your crew's health at any time on the left and see their health bars. Also, when you mouse over, you can see their skill levels, just like we saw on the ship screen. And I'm going to take Thomas, I'm going to select him, and I'm going to right-click on the med bay. With the med bay, units in there will heal over time. As long as your med bay is receiving power and it's on, okay, you can see that Thomas healed. Thomas is now at full health. So the med bay provides healing to anyone in this room, and it can fit 3 crew members, okay, at a time. And then come in here and get healing. The rate at which they receive the healing depends on the level of the med bay, and also how much power you have going into it, okay? So, for example, if I right-click on the med bay, all right, you will see that the icon is still gray. It's not been, it is no longer, it's not damaged or anything. It's still operational, but I'm not giving it any power. So on the bottom screen, if you're not giving a system power, okay, from the reactor, then it is gray. If it's receiving power, it's green. And the amount of power that it's receiving is indicated by these green bars. So now I'm looking at the bottom left of our UI to talk about power management. So if I want this med bay to work, I have to left click it. You'll see it turns green. And over here on the left, this is my available power. So these bars right here indicate the overall maximum that my reactor can provide with power. So starting out, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 power that we can distribute. The subsystems do not take power from the reactor. They are powered, okay? But they do not draw from this, all right? You don't get to choose where this goes. So this power, it only reflects what you can manually adjust, all right? So, for example, I can add 1 power to the engine. You see how there is another bar above the green bar that's empty, but it has an outline? This means that I can actually put a power into the engine. And if I do that, notice that my evasion goes up to 20. So I actually can pump more power into the engine room and increase my evasion, okay? I can right-click to take away 1 bar, and I can right-click again, okay, to turn it off altogether. I can also just push the corresponding key button, S or left click to add power, and I can push Shift and S to take away power. So you can right or left click, whatever you like. Notice that if I completely depower the engine room, I can no longer jump. So to jump, you have to have both piloting happening and engines, okay? So both of these systems need to be working to jump. And we'll go ahead and put power back there. All right, so this is how you can turn power on and off. I'm going to push enter to return our good buddy to the weapons system. Now, the weapons are turned off at the moment. I need 3 power to power our weapons. So you'll notice that the Artemis is over here to the left. It takes 1 power, and it's in slot number 1. The burst laser is in slot number 2, indicated by this 2 in the bottom right corner, and takes 2 bar power, indicated by these 2 boxes here. So if I want to power them on, I can left-click them, but you'll notice I can't turn on the Artemis. You can either left-click them, or you can push the corresponding number key to turn these on or off, okay? So you can push 2 to turn the burst laser on, or Shift 2 to turn it off. You can push 2 to turn it on, and then push 2 again to target something with it, and we'll talk about that in combat. But right now, I can't turn on my Artemis because you can see in the lower left, I'm out of power. So what do I do about this? Well, if I want to get power, I could, for example, just go ahead and push Shift S to take a power away from my engine room. And then now I can push 1 to turn on my Artemis missile. And you'll see this bar to the left of the weapon. This is the weapon charging up. You cannot fire a weapon until it's fully charged. And you'll see now that the weapons are both fully charged, they are green and they are ready to go. It might seem like a good idea to charge your weapons before you jump to the next screen, but unfortunately when you land in the next screen, unless you have an incredibly powerful and expensive augmentation, your weapons start at 0 charge. So every time you get into a fight, you have to charge up your weapons first, okay? But they cannot charge if they're not being allocated power at all, so you need to give them power. The other thing I want to say about this lower left screen about the power distribution from your reactor and your systems is that if a room is manned, it will have a filled in person icon above it. And if it would receive a benefit from being manned, but is not, it has an empty outline. So, for example, the shields actually do receive a benefit from being manned, but there's nobody in there, so it's an empty outline. The engine room is filled in, there's somebody there, and even our subsystems receive benefits from being manned. So, bear that in mind. Now, as far as manning goes, okay, you start out conveniently in the systems that I would recommend manning, all right? You want to definitely try to man all of your primary systems that you can. So if we were to get another crew member, for example, we'd want to put them on shields most likely because we want to man all of our main systems. These are the systems over here on the left: shields, engines, weapons, okay? However, even though I said prioritize your main systems, the one subsystem that you always want to have being manned is your piloting. If you don't have someone in the cockpit manning this, okay, you cannot jump. And check this out. If I move Ekman out of here just next door, you'll see that we can't jump. The piloting turns to red and our evasion goes to 0. We lose all dodge and the ability to jump if we don't have somebody in the cockpit. So I'm going to push enter to put them back in there. Jump turns back on and our evasion goes back up. This is why you always want to have somebody piloting, okay? Now, you can level up your piloting to receive the benefit of an autopilot. So if you don't have somebody in here, you get half of your evasion and you can still jump without somebody in that room. But even I don't like that upgrade at all because in my opinion, you want as much evasion as you can possibly get. So half of this evasion, 7.5% is just too big of a hit for me to take. I always want a person here if I can. All right, so we've talked about opening and closing the doors. We've talked about oxygen. We've talked about healing in the med bay. We've talked about manning stations and allocating power. We've described the UI. I think at this point, the rest is in doing, and it's best to actually move into an encounter where we can see some of these things happening in real time. But I really wanted you to get a firm grasp of just what you're seeing on the screen and the key commands and the mouse commands so that when you get into the hectic nature of a battle, you aren't trying to figure out all this stuff on the fly, that you have some knowledge as we go to our first encounter. So now it's time to look at the map and plan our course. I'm going to click the jump button, or you can push J on the keyboard, and it opens up the beacon map. Now, each one of these dots are beacons or nodes, places that you can travel to through the sector until you get to the exit, where you will go on to another sector. There are a total of 8 sectors until you get to the end, and you start in Sector 1. Now, this map is randomized, so it won't necessarily look the same as mine, and the route that you need to take each time is going to be different and depend on what you find. So right now, you can see we're starting here, and any location or beacon that you visited will be purple, meaning I've visited it, and if it's yellow, that means you have not yet visited it. The green dotted lines indicate which beacons you can get to from your current location. So what I always think is a great idea is to click on the exit and work backward to make sure that you can get to the exit, because sometimes they're located in a way where, for example, you see how this beacon right here, it doesn't actually connect over here. So you have to kind of get here and then go up and over. So if you were here and the fleet was upon you, you couldn't just go to the right to get to the exit because there's no connection between these 2 points. You actually have to jump down and then go to the right, and that could slow you down and allow you to be caught by the rebel fleet. I will say the rebel fleet will be very obvious when they're moving. They show you the path that they're going to move into, which gives you a warning, and then you'll notice very easily if you're going to be consumed by the fleet. Now, if you get caught by the fleet, you don't necessarily lose the game outright. You'll just have to fight a really difficult battle that's just not worth your time and effort and can probably kill you. So you want to avoid it. So what we're trying to do, like we talked about, is hit as many of these as we can and go to the exit. So you can mock up a route for yourself. So you could say, well, I go here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 jumps, 10 opportunities to get upgrades for our ship. And honestly, that looks pretty good. If I'm putting myself right here or anywhere, that connects to the exit, this node, or this node, then I have an easy way out. So I think if I just stay here, kind of bounce around down here, and then work up, so kind of move from left to right along the bottom, and then gradually move up to the north here, or to the top of the map, to the exit, I should be fine. All right, so I'm going to probably take this. Now you can look like this node, for example, really can only take me here. So if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I get nice and central. 6, and then 7, 8, 9, 10, something like that, maybe. Either way is fine. Now, from this screen, what you want to do is left-click on one of these beacons and go there. But I'm actually going to push Escape to cancel this because before I jump, there is something I want to do. Now, granted, you can always do this before you start a fight, but I like to go in ready. Let's get our power completely set. And this is a best practice. You always want to distribute your power from your reactor to the systems that you want running if you're to get into a fight. Now, this is kind of a move that you want to get into the habit of, and it might seem counterintuitive, but we don't really need to have the medbay powered. The medbay you only need to have powered if someone needs healing. So right now we're at full health, so I can safely right-click this or push Shift D to take away power from the medbay. This will give me 1 extra bar of power, and you can see that I can allocate that bar to our engine, and that will give us 20% evasion, so an extra 5% dodge, just for depowering the medbay. This loadout that we have right now allows us to have both weapon systems up and power to every single thing. Everything is fully powered, except the medbay. Now, if we need to use the medbay, all you would need to do is right-click the engine and then left-click the medbay to kind of bounce the power around. And this is going to be something that we just do all the time. In battles, as the game becomes harder, you're going to have to do that on the fly, but right now, before you jump, let's set that. And I'm going to jump to this node right here. So you click on it and you jump and you get to an event, okay? So you either get to a text-based event like this, which will give you usually a list of options that you can do, or you'll get into a fight. And sometimes these can lead to fights. So let's see what this says. It says, you come across a space station under construction. You receive a message from their command tower. Greetings, we recently lost contact with a cargo ship that was set to deliver more construction materials. Could you help us figure out what happened to them? So this is like they're offering us a quest. So these are great to take if you can do them. And so you can either decline if you're in a hurry, you don't have time for this, or you can offer your help. Usually in this game, you want to risk it for the biscuit. You want to try to risk unless you're about to die, because the more you can lean into risking, to fighting, the more rewards you can get, and that will make you stronger in the long run. That being said, there are certain places, and I'll tell you where it's not worth risking it, and that usually involves anything where they want you to send out your crew by themselves, or something where you have an opportunity where you could potentially lose a crew member. Now, another thing about these events and these quests and things are that they're totally random for every run. It's a roguelike, so it's randomized. but there is a list of these online, and you can look at the list on the wiki or wherever if you want and see the probable outcomes. Now, you won't know definitively what you're going to get with the exception of a few, but you can get a better idea of what the possible outcomes are, so you can weigh the risk reward, do your cost benefit analysis. So I'm going to push 1 and offer to help, and they say, great, thanks for your help. I've marked their last loan note coordinates and sent over some supplies to help you get there. Added a quest marker to your map. So whenever you get rewards from anything, you'll see them in this kind of box that's shaded, and positive gains will be in green and negative gains will have a negative symbol and be in red. So what they did was, just for agreeing to do this quest, they've already given us 3 fuel, which is phenomenal, and 2 drone parts, which we don't need right now, but don't sleep on these. Some people might want them, or you can trade them or sell them in instances, so it's always fine to get this, but the fuel is really good. So we say continue, and now you can see we went up to 18 fuel. Generally, I like to stay, between... I like to be at like 10 to 12 fuel, right in there, and I'll feel like I have enough to kind of move around and explore. Anything below 10 fuel, if I get sub 8 fuel, I start being nervous. Like, I need to really plan my jumps more carefully. But with a huge amount of fuel like this, I can just freely explore, because you're going to get fuel as rewards. But once you start getting below 10, you want to start to be a little bit more cautious and weigh that more heavily. All right, I'm going to jump. Okay. And like I said, I'm going to go down here. Okay, so the captain of this ship claims he can provide, quote, services as long as you've got the scrap. So this is like a mercenary, and what he's doing is he's saying, if we pay this person, they can delay the rebels, which means gives us more turns to explore before the rebel fleet advances. We can hire a mercenary to scout the sector to like reveal locations for us. We can say we don't want your services, or we can fight them. Okay, so this might seem like really aggressive, okay, and morally bankrupt, but this isn't a game about morals. You're trying to save the universe, okay? And so to save the universe, you really need to just lean into doing anything and all possible. The ends are going to justify the means if you want to win this game. If you want to roleplay it and be nice, that's totally fine. But there are events in here that will mess with you. Sometimes if you try to be nice, that you won't get the outcome you want. And sometimes it does reward you for being nice. I'm not going to say it's against the rules, but I'll tell you, when I started playing, I always wanted to just try to hide and defer, not do combat, just be more peacefully move around. And you're missing out on rewards. If you want to scale up, you kind of need to fight. These are pirates, by the way. You can see their ship over here on the right. So before you select fight the ship, which is what I'm going to do, you can look at their ship and you can get information on it. As you get better at the game, this information will register more heavily with you and you'll be able to interpret it better. But you can see that they're a pirate instigator. Their relationship is neutral, so they're probably not going to attack us. Although sometimes you'll think like, oh, I'll just be like, no, thank you, and then they'll attack you anyway. Or you'll buy something from them and it's a trick and they'll attack you. So you can get all kinds of surprises in this game. But you can see they have a shield that has 1 bubble like us, and their hull is only 6 strong. So this is a pretty weak ship, and you can look down here and see their systems. They've got piloting, O2, they have shields, engines, and weapons. So this is all they've got. So you get an idea before you commit to a fight. If you have the option like this, sometimes they just attack you and you don't get the idea, but you can still look at the ship that you're about to engage and get information from it that you can use to leverage an advantage. You can also see their weapons here and here. They're kind of hard to see. They're not fully deployed yet. And this is just something that will come through time, but you will visually be able to recognize what weapons they have by their graphic, because they're the same graphic that you would have with the weapons. Now, there's also a wiki that displays all of the weapon types, so you can see exactly, based on the visuals, what kind of weapon they have, how much damage it does, how often it fires, things like this. But right now, what looks pretty good about their setup is they have no missiles, and that's great. Missiles, we have them. and they're fantastic, although they have a limited resource, then they're expensive to maintain. And you can't really count on them after a certain point because you might run out, but the nice thing about missiles is that they bypass the shield. So if they hit, you get to target something, it goes through the shield and, does a good amount of damage. So we got to watch out for missiles because even though we have a shield, they could still hit us with the missile and cause us some damage, which is a pain. But they don't even have that. So we're going to go ahead and select Fight the Ship. And they turned hostile. You see, they turned red, relationship hostile. It says right here, mercenaries are worse than rebels. The only honorable course is to engage the mercenary in battle. That's right, war profiteers. How dare you? All right, so you say continue and you're fighting. First thing I want to do before I even start fighting is push the spacebar. Spacebar is your friend. I didn't explain this on the previous screen, but we'll talk about it now. You can pause this game at any time. So it's real time, it's frenetic, it's extremely hectic, but pause it to survey what's going on so that you are in a position where you can feel comfortable and make good decisions. Okay? So right now, they are pulling out their weapons and charging up their weapons just like we are. You can see our weapons on the front of our ship. Here's our missile launcher, our Artemis on the top, and our burst laser Mark II on the bottom. Okay? So we're going to charge up our weapons and fire at them, and they're going to do vice versa. Luckily, both of their weapons will be interrupted by our shields, so we can take advantage of that and hopefully win this fight rather simply. All right, I'm going to unpause it. And you can see, I'm going to pause it again. Right here, my weapons are just kind of filling up. And this is the preliminary stage of combat. You're kind of like feeling each other out. You're charging up the weapons and you're figuring out what you want to do. Now, I'm not going to target anything yet with my weapons because I want to show you a bit of a trick that I'd like to do. Okay, I'm going to just keep going. And you'll notice that the Artemis charges faster than the burst laser. Okay, now they're firing. This is an ion weapon that they're firing here. They already fired, all right? And it's left their ship, and it's going to come into our ship. And I'm just going to kind of pause it. Okay, here it comes right here in the lower left. This is their ion projectile, and it's hit our shields. So they hit our shield. You can see our shield is gone. All right, up here the shield is gone, but it did no damage to us. We're still at full health, but our shield is down. Now, though, both of our weapons are ready. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fire my missile. I am going to use a missile on this ship because at the beginning I like to use a few missiles just to get some momentum and get some scrap going. I'm going to fire at their shield. Okay? I'm going to fire my missile at their shield. I'm not going to fire my burst laser until I see if I can hit their shields. Because if I hit their shield with my missile, it will damage their shield system. Okay? And take their shield down, and then I can fire my laser, and my burst laser, you can see it says shots per charge 3. So my burst laser will fire 3 charges that do 1 damage, and it has a possible effect of starting a fire on their ship. So if I were to fire this without interrupting their shields, if I hit them, one of them would just be absorbed by the shield itself, and then I could hit with the next 2. But this way, if I hit their shields with the Artemis, which by the way, if I mouse over it, it does 2 damage, and it has the possible effect of breaching them, which punctures a hole in their ship and drains out the oxygen, stunning whoever is in that room, if there is anybody, and setting a fire. But then it will give me the opportunity to try to hit with all 3 blasts of my burst laser if I do hit. Now notice too, you see my shield, it is blinking blue, and over here there's a lock icon. They've hit me with an ion effect. So ion weapons can like stun systems, basically. So our shield is not even going to start recharging until this clock countdown timer wears down. So you see there's already 1 pit missing. This will drain down, and then this will unlock and our shields will turn back on. So they've taken our shields offline. So that's annoying. Okay, and we're going to fire our missile, and you see there's our missile going. Let's see if we hit. We got him. Okay, so we just hit them, okay, but they hit us with a beam weapon in retaliation. So we did 2 damage to them. You can see, remember, they started out with 6 hit points. Now they're at 4 because our missile penetrated their shield. You can see the 2 damage number floating on their ship. It's kind of hidden. But they also fired their beam, okay, which sweeps across. All right, they took out our shields first, so the beam would penetrate our shield, and they have hit our shield, so they've also damaged it. So what we want to do is I'm going to take the person from the weapon room, which is Thomas, and I'm going to right-click in the shield room. And Thomas is going to move from the weapon room to the shield room to try to repair it. It's been damaged. It's orange and blue, so it's stunned, but it's also damaged. You can tell that it's been damaged, but not destroyed, because this top power bar has a red line diagonally through it, meaning it's been knocked out. I still have the bottom power bar, okay? So if it was red, that would mean there's no power that I can allocate. All bars have been knocked out. Orange means a variable amount of the bars greater than 1 have been, knocked out. But the shield requires 2 power, so even though it's only partially damaged, it's not going to give me any shield until we get it fixed. So we're going to try to do that. Now I'm going to push 2, okay, to select my burst laser. Again, I fired by pushing 1, but you can also just click on your weapon, and then it turns your mouse pointer into crosshairs with the number of the weapon you have selected, and I'm going to target their weapons. I'm going to try to take out their weapon system. What you want to do generally is first take out their shield so you can hit them, and then take out their weapons. Those are the 2 systems that you really want to prioritize unless there's something else happening, okay? But for the most part, that's it. Now, you might do that in the reverse order, depending on what you've got up your sleeve or what your preference is, but I like to take out their shield so that I can get a guaranteed hit through their shield, or try to, with their weapons on my burst laser. So I'm going to fire. Okay. And immediately, we hit them, and they are trying to offer us a reward to surrender. They're saying, oh my god, you're destroying us. Like, please don't do this to us. We don't deserve this. And if you let us go, we'll give you 1 fuel, 1 drone part, and 11 scrap. Now, usually say no to this and keep fighting unless you're losing a lot of health, the ship seems too hard for you, or they give you some really good reward that you want to reject. But this is not good enough, so I'm going to say we will not accept surrender. I usually always reject this unless my ship is badly damaged, I'm outclassed by their ship, or if they're going to give me some kind of item as a reward, I will usually take that. But for now, I'm going to say no, and I'm going to keep fighting. And you can see they surrendered or tried to surrender before we even hit them with all of our lasers. So they're down to 1 hit point. Their shields are red, their weapons are red, meaning they're completely offline. So they're just dead in the water. You'll see that their weapons collapse and fold inward onto their ship to visually indicate that they've been disabled. And we're good to go. Now, you'll notice the beam that they hit us with. Beam weapons sweep across, so they swept their beam across, hit our shield and our medbay. Our medbay is red, it's been disabled, we don't really care about that. And like our laser, for example, only targets 1 sector or 1 room. So does the missile, but some weapons target an area of effect, or they sweep, things like that. That's what the beam did. That's why beam weapons are great, but never mind, we're fine. I'm going to unpause the game, and all we're doing is just letting our laser charge up. We used 1 missile, down from 8 to 7. We are not going to use any more missiles in this fight. We want to save all of our missiles. We're going to instead use our burst laser to finish them off. So I'm already going to just push 2 and select this. Even though it's not charged, I'm going to preemptively select this. I'm just going to target their piloting. Now here's some information. You can, if you want, turn something to auto fire. So if I click auto fire, okay, you'll notice that my red target turned yellow with an A on it. And that means every time the burst laser charges up, it's just going to fire on that location as fast as it can. This could be useful, okay? I don't use it unless I'm sure that that's what I want. You can also do that by having 2 selected and then holding control. Okay, so if you have your target selected, so my burst laser, it's red, and I want to target their piloting like I did before, but if you hold control, then you can just set the auto fire there. And that's fine, I'll leave it there. And what's going to happen is, now, because I've targeted before my laser is charged, I'm just going to fire there as soon as it gets charged. But I didn't do that before, because a lot of the time in this game, you want to strategically fire your weapons either at the same time or almost one after the other really quickly so that you can hit them when their shields are down. if you stagger your weapons, which is what the enemy AI does, they're going to run into your shield all the time, and it's terrible. So you really want to plan, and even though one weapon might be ready, it's better to delay and fire your weapons simultaneously unless their shields are down or you've got some other plan. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this. We're repairing this. So just taking further advantage of the pause screen here, looking at all the information. Now that our shields have come off lock because the ion stun is gone, you'll notice at the bottom our shields icon is yellow because it's damaged. This progress bar with the canceled out bar will fill up as this person is repairing it, or whomever is in the room and is repairing it. You can send more of your crew in there to repair it faster, and it will get done quicker if you like. Just the same thing for fire or for repairing a breach. The more people you send in there, the quicker it will get done. They work together. But we don't really need anything else right now. Now, it does say warning shields critical in the upper left because our shields are just offline. That means like they're gone and they can't be turned on right now. But once we repair it, we're good to go. Our med bay is red because all the bars are gone and it's totally offline. We can't use it. Now, the reactor automatically will refund any power to a system that can't take it. So you see we have 2 extra power bars here to distribute because our shield is offline. And once you repair it, you're going to need to turn it back on manually, okay? So I'm going to unpause the game. We're in no threat because they can't hurt us. Their weapons are off. They're just floating there about to get annihilated. And bam. So once you hit them and they explode, the interior of their ship will close, and you won't be able to see what's going on. Speaking of seeing what's going on inside the ship, let's talk about the sensors. Our sensors are a subsystem that we really haven't discussed at all. We talked about piloting, we talked about doors. Sensors simply allow you to see inside your ship in any room that's not being currently manned. And if you upgrade sensors or you have someone manning it, you can actually see inside the enemy ship. And if you upgrade it further, you can see the charge on their weapons and like when they're going to fire, things like that. It's nice to have, but it's absolutely not necessary. You might think that it would be necessary, but it's not. Now, not being able to see the inside of your own ship is really frustrating. But so you want to repair your sensors if you can to see where fires are, where breaches are, intruders are, things like that. If they do get knocked out, but they're not a top repair. So they blow up, and as a result, we got 1 missile, 1 repair bot, or I'm sorry, 1 drone. It could be a repair bot, but it's not. We don't have any drones. It's just a drone part, and 20 scraps. So this reward is better than the reward they would have given us for surrendering. Although I think they were offering us fuel. Usually sometimes they'll offer fuel when they want to surrender, and then if you kill them, you don't usually get fuel as a result, but you might get a missile. And a missile is great. We'll take it back, and we get more scrap, and their ship explodes, and this is what we get. So you can see we're up to 50 scrap. We went up to 8 missiles, and now I'm going to go ahead and just send my people to repair this. Get the med bay back online. And they're working together. You see them with their wrenches. And good. And I'm going to push enter to get everybody back to their stations that I have saved, and we're ready to jump. Now I'm going to jump, and I'm going to jump over here. Now, you always have a choice of jumping backward or visiting a location that you visited before. You can certainly do that. I recommend never doing that unless you have to, and it's not necessarily bad to jump backward to an unvisited location, but you never want to repeat a location if you can avoid it, because it's a waste. It's a waste of your fuel, it's a waste of your time. You'll see here this red bubble that's emerging on the left. This is the rebel fleet, and they're starting to come, and they're going to start moving from left to right slowly, jump by jump. They're going to move over, and the sectors, or the beacons rather, on the left portion of the map are going to become unsafe as they progress. So I also don't want to jump back toward them, and that's why you plan accordingly. You don't want to put yourself on an island where you can't escape, and the only way is to go backward. Now here's the quest right here. You can see it says quest with an arrow. This is where we need to get. So we'll go there, but we don't have to get there immediately. You could take your time. There's no time limit on it. And we'll just work our way over there. So I'm going to jump over here and see what we get. All right. So you come across an asteroid mining colony. They message you immediately saying, "Greetings, our supplies of mining explosives have run out ever since the rebels blockaded the system. Do you have any extra explosives?" So this is a tricky one. I recommend, if you're a new player, to do what I did, because I think it's the most fun in terms of just not min-maxing and just having a good time with the game, is to figure these events out as you go. And some of them are worth doing and some of them aren't, okay? I'll warn you of the ones that you don't want to do, and I'll talk you through the ones based on my experience, but I don't really want to spoil them if I can avoid it, because it's just part of the fun of the game. It's part of the experience. I will tell you as a free tip, if you ever see anything involving giant alien spiders, say no. Don't go near them, okay? It is a notoriously bad event. It has a horrible chance of a devastating outcome, so don't mess with the spiders. Now this one, we have our first blue option. So you'll see that in the list of choices that I have, there is a blue option. Blue options are usually the best thing that you can do. They usually have very little downside, and they're optional. Well, they're options, but I should say that they only will be listed if you meet a precondition for them. So, for example, this one, in parentheses at the beginning, it says missile weapon. You have to have a missile weapon to even see this option. And if you do, then you get it. A lot of the time, it'll be like you need a special kind of crew member, or some, you need something. An augment, an item, something it is that you have, and it will give you a new dialogue option. Now, whenever you get a blue option, I highly recommend taking it. Now, in this case, though, if I offer to take it, it actually doesn't work. So he's like, "Hey, well, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but you can't just fire a military-grade weapon. It's against the Union," okay? So your choices are to either give them 5 missiles, which we have. We don't have 15 missiles, so this is grayed out, or decline. I'm going to tell you, this might be a spoiler, but I was just playing a run the other day, and I did this 5 missiles, and the reward was not worth it. 5 missiles is a lot. I need missiles to survive right now. I am relying on the Artemis to help supplement my damage. It's really good for me, and I only have 8. So that would mean I only get 3 shots with the Artemis, and then I just can't use it anymore. I'm not comfortable doing that. So these are... what makes the game great are these hard choices. This is a hard choice. But I could do this and see, like, maybe they give me some scrap or whatever, but not worth it. Not worth it, okay? I believe that 1 missile costs 6 scrap. So they'd have to give me at least 30 scrap for this to be worth it. And even then, you can't really equate a missile to scrap straight up, because even if you get to a shop and they're selling missiles, for example, they might only have 3. It's not like you could buy unlimited of them, okay? So I don't want to trade missiles right now. I'm going to decline. So unfortunately, that means that this beacon did nothing for us. However, we can see that there's a store. Now, with your current scanning, you can see certain types of beacons from one jump away. Okay, so you might see a distress call, or you might see a store, or something else. Now, the quest is already marked for us, but and the exit. But some things will emerge when I arrive closer, and here's a store. So stores are fantastic. You cannot get attacked when you're at a store. It's just you go there, and you can buy and sell stuff. I never recommend going to a store unless you have at least 50 scrap, which we do have, but I'd like to go there with more if we could. Now notice that the warning, you see the Rebel fleet is moving further. If you get caught in this area where it says warning, nothing happens to you, but if you get caught in this striped area, then you will get attacked by some souped up ship that you just don't want to have happen. So you can be in the warning, but you need to jump away as soon as possible. You don't want to be caught there. You don't want to jump into it because then it will move after you jump and you'll be in the death zone. So we have plenty of space though. All right. You can kind of anticipate. You have to eyeball it, but basically you see this gap of space between the edge of their warning line and the white line marking the rebel fleet itself. This distance is about how far they'll move every jump. So we do have some room to work with, and for that reason, I'm going to go here and maybe even here and then go to the store and jump here, hit the quest, and potentially leave. I'd like to try to hit 2 beacons before I go to the store to get as much money as possible, because that will give me the most options at the store. So I'm going to go here. And the AI of a nearby small rebel scout immediately identifies you as a threat and engages. So this is a very common outcome for an event, which is that you get attacked by a drone ship. This ship has no crew. Okay, it has a weird layout. You'll notice it has 2 rooms on the left that aren't connected to the piloting room, and 2 rooms on the right that are connected to each other but not to the piloting room. This ship has no oxygen, so if you have a boarding party planned because you have a teleporter on your ship, which we don't have a teleporter system, it's something that you can add or buy, or some ships start with it. Mantis ships start with it. Don't beam over to this ship because there's no air for your people to breathe. All right, so you got to be ready for that. And they're going to try to fight us, and they're also firing up its FTL drive. If it gets away, it will no doubt warn the fleet of your position. Okay, so let's we're paused, we're ready to go. What this means is if they get away, I believe they tell the fleet, and the fleet gets to advance a little bit further. So we lose some time to explore, and we don't want that to happen. Let's take a look at what's on their ship. They have an ion gun, okay, and they have an attack drone. So this is their enemy combat drone, and it repeatedly attacks our ship. Now, we can take this down by damaging their drone system. Right here, it's marked with the same icon as our drone part, and remember, you can always look at their ship systems down at the bottom. They've got drones, they've got weapons, engines, shields, and piloting. That's it. They have an ion gun like we saw last time. This ship can't actually hurt us unless they hit us with both of these things at once, okay? Like the ion hits our shields or something. So we can do okay here, but we actually have to change our priority, okay? So I'm going to fire my Artemis at their engine right here. This is my missile, and I'm just going to push 1 and select their engine. I'm doing that because you can see at the top it says enemy FTL charging. This means that they're trying to jump away. If you damage their engine or take out their piloting, they cannot jump. So I'm going to try to hit their engine. Then I'm going to take the burst laser, okay, and I'm going to try to take out their shields. And I'm actually going to just rapid fire, auto fire my burst laser on their shields by pushing 2. So as soon as these charge up, they're going to hit that. And here we go. So this little drone will fly around and shoot us, okay? You can see it's trying to get us, but it's not getting through our shield, really. And now the ion comes, and it missed us. You see how it'll say miss? So this is because we have 20% dodge. Dodge is unbelievably powerful in this game. Now, here's our missile we really wanted to hit. It did. All right, so we just took down their engine, and you can see now their ship has changed, and it says enemy FTL delayed. Now, I didn't explain this yet, but I should have. Whenever you take a system to the red, okay, then they take hull damage. Now, we already were going to do 2 hull damage to them, but if you hit a system and you take it down to red, they take extra hull damage from that. So it's always good to kind of, if they already have a system at red, to fire at something that's not at red to do more damage. But in this case, we took their shield down because our burst laser already hit them once. We still have more laser firing, and we actually hit their shield twice, so we just annihilated this ship. Now, they could still hurt us, okay? And I'm going to take my burst laser, and I'm actually going to fire it at their weapons. This way, they can no longer hurt us. If we just take out their ion, we will win without damage. Now, okay. Unfortunately, I'm going to run over here and try to hit. We can take damage now. In the previous fight, I meant to say this, we only took 2 damage, so we really haven't taken that much damage. Don't sweat your hull. Just as a heads up, I don't worry about my hull until it's like halfway or less. A nice spot to have it is about 75%, 80%, you're fine. This is fine. There's lots of events that can heal you. You can get healed at a shop. Don't even worry about it. A few damage here and there is no big deal, so don't stress about it. Their drone can hit us while our shield is offline, unfortunately, and I put this guy over here, but to be honest, there's actually no reason. We don't need to repair the shield. It took no damage. It just got stunned. So I'm going to go back to the weapons system, and they took out our sensors, but we took out their ship. So you can see this is what happens, like I was telling you, when the sensors get taken down. They took out our sensors. It only takes 1 damage to do that because there's only 1 power in there. And you can't partially damage 1. It's just either, that's binary at that point, all or nothing. But we're done. We got a drone part, we got a missile and 11 scrap, and they don't get to inform the fleet. I'm going to go over here and repair. You could see all we can look at inside our ship right now are the rooms with people in them because our sensors are offline. But as soon as this gets repaired, you can see the progress bar filling up. This will turn green again, and we could see the whole ship. I'm just going to push enter and return. This is just a graphical artifact that their drone stays here. It's not doing anything. It can't hurt us. You're good to go. Now we have 61 scrap. I'm going to jump here and then go to the store. If you want to think about buying something, if there was no store, here's what I would say. Go to your ship screen, and the first thing I personally like to upgrade with this ship is the shield. So I want to have, to get another bubble of shield, okay, I would need 50 scrap to get 2 shield barriers, but I would also need to have 2 power to allocate. So at the minimum, I need 70 to purchase the 2 upgrades to the shields and 1 more power bar from my reactor, and then I could like turn off, I could take away a power, for example, from my engine and put it to my shield, but I want around 100 to fully upgrade and get another shield bar, so I'm saving up for that. But if the shop has something, I'd be into it, so I'm going to go here. Okay. A rebel space station and a single fighter is monitoring this beacon for Federation activity. But I'm Federation. A number of civilian ships are docked awaiting inspection by the rebels and possible detainment if they are Federation loyalists. The rebels haven't noticed you. So, here's what you can do. You can bribe the rebels to release the civilians. For 15 scrap, you can fend for yourself, attack and escape, or you can stay hidden. Just for fun, let's see what happens if we try to bribe the rebels. And like most rebels, these are just men trying to get by in a rough galaxy. They take your scrap and let everyone continue on their journey. So we lose 15 scrap and we can contact the civilian ships. And they're grateful, however, none of them seem eager to be mistaken as loyalists, so they jump away. So unfortunately, that is an example of why it's not always the best to be nice. I freed them. They got away with their lives, but they gave me nothing in return. Now, that's not always the outcome of that event, but boy, that's rough. So, ouch. Okay, here comes the fleet. You can see that these beacons, once they get touched by this striped fleet zone, it'll say the rebels have control of this location, very dangerous, which means it has like a strong ship on it. Now, I'm going to jump up here, and leave the store behind. I was planning on going to the store, but now with 46 scrap, it's not worth my time. I can't guarantee that there's going to be something worth buying, and the fleet's getting closer, so instead I'm going to jump up here. That's a loss of 15 scrap, and that's why you got to have a real edge in this game. You got to be really aggressive and kind of heartless, unfortunately, to win. Your mission is more important than, you know, some small stuff sometimes. Not saying all the time, and you do what you want, but look what happened. Your sensors have picked up a refugee ship drifting through the system, no doubt one of many. It doesn't appear to have detected you, or it's trying to avoid notice. Let's hail them and see what they say. This is amazing. So this is, if you see refugees or something like that, I always try to contact them, and I always try to play a little risky. I very rarely hide, unless I'm, low on something, gonna die or something. So they want to trade. For one drone part, which we don't even use, they're going to give us 9 fuel. A drone part is about 8 scrap in value, and fuel is about 3 each, so this is like 8 for 27. It's a huge upside for us, and we don't even use drone parts. So this is phenomenal. We'll take it, and we're just rolling in fuel. We're thrilled with that. I'm going to go and turn in the quest right away, and then probably go here, here, and then exit. Okay, you find the missing cargo ship docked to an empty space station. However, their hold appears to be empty, and there are no obvious signs that anyone's inside the ship. Everything looks abandoned. You can stay near the beacon, or you can move to examine it. So let's be silly and move in, and we approach cautiously, but we detect no danger. It appears to have a small rest stop that was abandoned. You take what you can find. So we got 12 scrap. So we ended up getting only 12 scrap, plus the upfront gift from that quest. So that's fine. It's not great, but not the worst. 1, 2... I'm going to be even riskier. I'm going to go 1, 2, and if I have time, I can go here and then here. But if we don't, we can actually just go straight from this beacon to the exit. Okay? Remember, I want to try to maximize the amount of beacons that I get. Oh, this one's terrible. Okay. You arrive at the beacon to find yourself dangerously close to a star. All right. An automated rebel ship impervious to the heat moves in to engage. Okay, so let me pause it. This star says you're too close to a star. Solar flares are going to light our ship on fire. Shields will reduce the effect. So these are terrible. You never want to be close to these kind of environmental effects like this. This is a bad one. And they've got a nasty ship. They're launching a hacking drone right away to hack one of our systems. And they have an ion and a laser. So this is pretty rough. We're going to have to use everything we've got to take this out. So first things first, I'm going to launch the Artemis at their shield and launch my laser here. We might take some damage here. Okay. Oh, God. So they hacked our weapons. So here's what happens when you get hacked. The system flashes blue, meaning it's been stunned, and it's also highlighted in this kind of like magenta. Because this is the hacking color. The doors are locked. This crew member cannot get out until this is done, and there's this kind of like electrical charge while we're being hacked. You really can't do anything about this except for take out their hacking. So we just have to sit here. And it's scary. We can't hit them. Okay, so now the hacking has stopped, and our weapons can start charging again. Hacking just kind of like stuns your weapons or whatever that system is for a brief period of time. And let's see what happens here. Okay, we got hit. They missed. Okay, great. So they missed with their laser. They hit us with their ion. Our shields have been stunned. We still, though, can't man this station because it's been hacked. And the doors are locked down, and it experiences temporary disruption. And let's just see. Okay, now we're firing, though. All right, they did hit us, but we hit them worse. So they hit us in an empty room for 1 damage, but we hit them with a missile, took down their shields, and took their weapons out. I'm going to take my burst laser and put it onto their hacking. Try to. They'll hack us again. Yep, they did right there. And there's not much we can do about it. Now we have a solar flare, and our shields are down because of the ion. So this is really unfortunate for us. We're going to have a little bit of a fire problem. I would just jump away, but our FTL is not charged. Okay, our shield did come back online, so that's good. The hacking has stopped the disruption of our weapons. Oh, okay. So they did hit us with the ion one more time before we could hit them again, and took our shield right before the solar flare. So what's going on here is we have a fire. So it's a fun time to talk about fires. The best way to put out fires, honestly, is to take the oxygen out of the room. So I'm going to take Notch and move him over to the shields for the time being. He can't get there because these doors are locked, but I can move him out of the fire. So I'm going to move him out like that, and I'm going to open all these doors. I'm going to open the doors and just vent this out into space. You can even right-click your O2 to turn it off to speed this process up. So now what's going on, there's also a fire in the cockpit. He should be able to take care of that. Okay. And we're firing burst lasers at their hacking. They have no shields, so hopefully we can handle them. Engines are critical, which is less than ideal, but we did blow them up. So you don't want the fire to take out your system. It's burning, okay? And it'll just do more hull damage to us, but we did take them out, all right? So now what we can do is I'm going to send one person over here to help with this fire. And we got 3 fuel, 2 missiles, and 19 scrap. Fantastic. And we just have to wait for this fire to go out. There's no oxygen, so it should go out. It did. And then as soon as it goes out, we're going to close the doors. Okay. And the O2 will come back on. I'll turn the O2 back on. And you can see that these 2 people got hurt fighting the fire, so we're going to send them to the med bay. I'm going to power it on. And then this person I'm going to send in to repair the engines, but I have to wait until the oxygen is there so that they don't take damage from that. Actually, Notch did take damage, so I'm going to send Notch to the med bay, these people over here to repair, and we're good to go. Now, we are going to take solar flare damage sitting here. Remember, this is like not a safe area, so we took some, they started a fire, we'll just vent that. But I have to get this repaired before I can leave. There's no escape otherwise. Now we're charging our FTL. They're fixing it. Okay. I'm going to tell everybody to go back to their stations. The fire is out. We'll close these doors back up. And as soon as everybody gets back to the systems, hopefully we can get out of here. It's charging up. We're going to jump. And we're going to go over here. That was terrifying. But that's just part of the game. And fire management is one of the huge skills that you have to have, if at all possible. And the Kestrel's really nice for it because it has a lot of exterior doors. You vent it. You open it up. You open the airlock. Take out the oxygen. Turn off your O2 to speed up the process. Let the fire go out. Then turn on your O2 so your crew doesn't suffocate. And deal with it that way and repair the damages. If worst case scenario, like we did in the cockpit, you can't really vent it easily. You just have to have people manually put it out and then go to the med bay and heal them up. You might have to do it in stages where you go back heal and then get them topped off, then go back to the fire. But it's a real pain to deal with. That's why if you can avoid solar flares, do it. You've jumped into the aftermath of what seems to have been a brutal exchange between several ships. Wreckage drifts by your screens, and you can still see the remains of the dying ships sparking and breaking apart. It's hard to determine who the combatants were without closer investigation. So you can move on, or you can risk it for the biscuit and investigate. That's what I'm doing, but there was nothing there. So we're going to jump, and it looks like we have enough time to indeed go here and then exit. Okay? So we have about 2 turns. The exit will be in the warning zone when we want to leave, but that's fine. I am going to wait a moment to fill up my oxygen before I jump. And just another tip, you can open a room that does have oxygen to a room that doesn't. And as long as that room is sealed, it should oxygenate a little faster. Maybe it's just my imagination, but that seems to help. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and jump. And we will check this one out. Oops, I gotta turn off my med bay. Okay, so there's a pulsar on the screen and a pirate ship. Alright. So we're gonna pause it. I'm gonna turn off the med bay and power up my engines all the way so I get that 20% evade. This ship is going to attack us, and there's a pulsar, and so this is going to periodically disrupt our systems, but it will hit both of us. So it's annoying. And I am going to prioritize using a missile here. I'm going to target their shield with my missile, and I will go ahead and try to take out their weapons with my burst laser. They've got an ion weapon, and it looks like a beam, so we shouldn't be too worried if we can get these down quickly. Alright, they're ion blasting us, and they missed, which is amazing. Okay, and we just basically won the fight. So right there, they missed. And the thing about beam weapons is, unless they are really strong, they don't penetrate your shield. So if you have a shield up, a lot of beams you can just block. Because like sometimes they'll do 1 damage, but to multiple rooms. But if the shield is up, it'll take it all. And it just won't penetrate the shield. So, because their ion missed, this was not going to hit us anyway, but we hit with a missile and we took out their weapons. So we're not going to use any more missiles, we're going to save them, and we're going to keep going with the burst laser. Now, we're doing pretty well, but as you can see, we have taken damage. It's not like this is a cakewalk. We're on, quote, easy mode, and it's still challenging. So this is why I really recommend starting in easy mode. You can unlock ships in easy mode, okay, and use them and win the game with them and work on unlocking content and understanding the game better before you upgrade to normal mode. I think that's what I would recommend. Of course, you can just go ahead and jump in if you like a real challenge and want to start on normal mode, but it is very difficult. So I'm going to go ahead and target their piloting. And I'm doing that again so I do more damage, knock out a system completely. If you take out the enemy's piloting, it's usually the 3rd target that I go for. It removes their ability to dodge altogether. So you can just make it so you won't miss, and it's fantastic. Pulsar came in, and unfortunately it hit both our weapons and it hit our shields. It hit their piloting and hit their engines. Now, we do actually have 1 bar of weapon, so what we could do is fire the Artemis if we wanted to, but I don't want to use a missile. I do want to also point out that the order that your weapons are in matters, so they get power prioritized from left to right. So if you want your burst laser to stay on, you can put it to the left and it will prioritize putting power there over the Artemis. So, you know, just something to think about. I'm fine with the order right now. We'll just have to wait this out. They got their beam back, and hopefully our shield will come back on before we get hit. We might get hit, unfortunately. Okay, and our shield is trying to charge, and we're going to go ahead and just put the burst laser on them, and I'm going to try to hit their weapons at this point. And the ion pulse is coming back, which is annoying. Okay, so the ion pulse came in, and it took down our shield. They did not do it. I don't think they did any damage to us. They might have done 1. The ion thing will come in, but ion doesn't really do damage. It's going to try to stun our system. Okay, we got them. And they're trying to run away. So now it's just time to put this on their... yeah, put it on their engines, I suppose. This way, we can try to take out their ability to jump. If you are worried about them jumping, okay, what you can do is just fire a missile. But we should be okay. And we got him. So we took him down, and we got a fuel, a drone part, and 19 scrap. Now, I'm going to jump to the exit because I don't want to sit in the ion pulse area. I want to get all my systems back online. And you've arrived at the long-range beacon. When the FTL drive is charged, you can jump to the next sector. So we're going to click continue. Now, sometimes you'll get an event at the exit. Sometimes it's nothing. In this case, we got an event where they're going to buy drone parts from us. I can sell 6 drone parts for 24 scrap, which is amazing. Again, it's not... They cost 8, so it's not like, you know, you're making a whole bunch of money here if you need drone parts, but I would rather have... I don't have any drones, So I would rather have the scrap. So I'm going to do this. Okay, so I'll sell 6 drone parts for 24. And what this means is now we have 120 scrap. All right, I'm going to wait for all of my systems to charge, and I can push U and go to my ship screen, and now we can get that second bubble of shields. I'm going to click, click, and now you'll see the bars that I'm going to buy are in yellow, but you don't commit until you click accept. So I can click undo and take that away, but now I've spent 50, and I'm going to buy 1 and 2. I still have 30 scrap left over, okay? And now I'm going to just click accept. I don't want to spend all my money. I could buy another power bar, but I don't want to. I like to have some scrap on hand just in case. And I'm going to now say accept. And what this does, you can see that our shield, I just left click it, and now it's got 2 nodes and we've got 2 bubbles of shield. This is huge for our protection. That was an amazing turnaround for us. So we're ready to go to the next sector, and we've got ourselves with 2 layers of shield. This is really one of the things I try to prioritize in the early game, because this will make us actually immune to some of the ships that we encounter, because they won't be able to get through 2 shield bubbles. So it's really great. So now you can see we're in the warning area. This is okay, but if we were to wait another turn, we'd get into some trouble. So we're just going to click next sector, and you get to the sector map. You can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8 is the last stand, the final sector. But within this, you can pick paths of where you want to go. So you don't know exactly what's here, but the purple, it tells you on the bottom, it color codes it. Purple is nebula, okay? Red is hostile, it means it's harder. There's more difficult enemies here, but you get better rewards. And green is like more peaceful. There's more shops in the green zones, less enemies generally. Now I'm going to actually pick going to the nebula instead of the pirate sector. The nebula is cool because it slows down the fleet, so you get a lot more time to explore there. And then I'm going to go maybe here, and then we can choose if we want a hard sector or an easier sector depending on how we're doing, and we can cruise over here to the end. So you can do what you want. This is higher risk, higher reward. This can be dangerous, but it's good to slow them down, and green is generally the easier sector. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the nebula like this, so I can show you a nebula, and boom, we're in the nebula. And the first node of a sector is always safe. You can see where you're at, you can see the exit, and you can plan where you want to go. And this is going to be the end of our first episode of this complete beginner's guide to FTL. We completed the first sector, and we will pick up in the next episode with sector number 2, the Uncharted Nebula. The exit is here, and we're going to keep moving this Kestrel around and trying to upgrade ourselves and escape that rebel fleet. Everyone, I hope you have found this to be useful, helpful, and fun. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. I'll check you in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Take care.